Are you lifting 5 days a week but can't figure out why you're not progressing? Watch this.
Our first caller is Dan from the UK.
Dan, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
You got it.
First off, I'm a big fan of listening to your podcast. I also picked up Sal's Resistance book, and both have kind of really helped shaped my understanding of fitness and what I'm trying to achieve. So my main question is around, basically, I was recently listening to an episode where you guys were talking about 4 different types of strength training. And I'm wondering, is it possible or even advisable to attempt maximal strength training 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, without causing aches and soreness or kind of risk of injury? And just if you have any suggestions for someone who's trying to transition from moderate intensity resistance training to maximal.
Yeah, well, it depends on the person and how their body feels. I mean, there's definitely people that can train 5 days a week for maximal strength, but other people, it's just too much. You're really going to have to feel it out and see how it works. Most people, Dan, do best about 3 to 4 days a week. 5 days a week tends to be too much of high intensity type of strength training. If somebody does go to the gym 5 days a week, you're usually looking at 2 of those days being more recovery, mobility focused. So more along the lines of supporting the other hard 3 days. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can train for it 5 days a week. You'd have to
undulate your intensity.
Yeah, you just got to manipulate the intensity so that the goal can be maximal strength. And I'm going to lift 5 days a week. So the program, as far as the rep range, the exercise choice, the mindset going into the workout looks very similar, but you just scale back the intensity on at least 2 or 3 of those days. Otherwise, you're going to be doing so much damage. Your body's constantly trying to recover and it never adapts.
And again, this depends on the person, right? Yeah. So because you may find a sweet spot for yourself, Dan, and then find that at some point in your life becomes too much, or that you can do more. So it's just, the key with long-term success with exercise in general is to ask yourself why you're doing this. Yeah. Is this improving the context of is this improving my life, the quality of my life in the context of my life right now? So that will help you adjust the intensity, the volume, the frequency up or down based on how you're feeling. But let's get more details, Dan. What are you doing in that 5 days a week right now that's making you feel the way you are?
What's your very specific goals, and what are you trying to get out of this in terms of like ramping up, intensity that many days in a row? Is it mainly strength driven or is it endurance driven?
Sure. I'll try to give you guys some more background. So I suppose my ultimate goal is body recomposition, and my understanding is to achieve that is through building muscle, to try and improve my metabolism, to lower my body fat percentage. The reason I go 5 days a week is largely because I enjoy the mental benefits a lot. It's a really nice way to start my day, and I do moderate intensity so that I can turn up every day and, also avoid injury, because that's something I'm really worried about. Just because in the past I had pushed myself a bit too hard and then, hurt myself, and then that would mean time off. So yeah, that's the kind of place I'm at.
Okay.
Coming from.
Okay. And are you following a specific program?
So after listening to the Resistance Training Revolution book, I checked out the YouTube channel and built a playlist for myself out of those videos. So usually some priming and then a bunch of those strength exercises. And I'll mix it up day to day depending on how my body's feeling.
Okay, Dan. But right now you're saying you're feeling more aches and pains and soreness than you feel you should.
Yeah. So previously at moderate intensity, it was fine. After listening to that episode, it seemed to make sense to try and increase my maximal strength. So I wanted to give that a go, but after like 2 or 3 days, I thought, this is just too much for me and not sustainable. So I think what you were saying about maybe the days in between, just lowering it, taking it easy, or focusing on mobility instead.
Yeah. The other side of this is your diet as well. Are you hitting protein targets, and are you tracking your calories?
Are you in a cut? If you're in a cut, this makes it even harder.
So I've only been tracking for a few weeks, so I'm still trying to get used to the numbers. Carbs and fat tend to be split, and I try to weight it towards protein, so maybe around 40%. And let me just try to think.
Are you hitting your body weight in protein?
So 190 grams at the moment.
And
so my body weight is 82 kilos, which is, I think, is about 180 pounds.
Oh yeah. No, that's good. And sleep is good. So here's what I'm going to do, Dan, because we do provide people with all of the information that they would need to design themselves a good program. That doesn't necessarily mean they'd be able to design themselves a good program, though. So we're giving you a lot of the ingredients, there's a lot of explanations, but putting the pieces together, takes another kind of level of experience and expertise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you one of our programs. I'm going to send you MAPS Anabolic, and I think MAPS Anabolic is going to be perfect for what you're trying to accomplish. You could go to the gym 3 days a week. In between those days, you'll do trigger sessions. One of those trigger sessions can be at the gym, and then you could just do things like mobility. And I think that will probably give you exactly what you're looking for.
Amazing. I really appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Thanks for calling in.
No worries. Take care.
You got it. Yeah, I appreciate the thoughtful questions that way. And, he's obviously thinking his way through this and kind of listening to his body. Because I know a lot of guys would just go through and be like, yeah, this hurts, but I'm just going to keep pushing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad, we have someone like that on the show asking those types of questions. But a little bit of soreness is okay, but you should feel good generally from your workouts. If you feel fatigued or excess soreness or achiness, that's not, what do they say? Pain is weakness leaving the body or whatever. Like that doesn't mean you're moving in the right direction. You're doing too much somewhere, whether it's too much volume, too much intensity, too much frequency of workouts, or all three. You should feel generally good. You should feel generally recovered, and you should see incremental progress in things like strength and performance in the gym.
What do you think the percentage of motivated lifters like this, someone who's doing his research, building this program, getting after it? What do you think is the percentage of people that are more likely to over apply intensity instead of under?
Someone like him, who's
a motivated person, I would say a higher percentage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Of course, higher. What I'm saying, I think, like when I think about,
I would say a majority, but
when I think about the pool of my clients that I had, and if we had to divide them in two categories of, the really motivated, want to get after it, group, and then the group that was like, really challenged to even get to the gym and, really doesn't like exercise. So if I were to divide them in two main groups like that, the group that is, never really worked out, doesn't really like to work out, doesn't really want to work out, but knows they need to work out. I would say that a majority of those, I always had to kind of encourage more intensity or increasing the way, or, we got another rep we could do. So that's what I'd say about, like, in 80%, I'd say we're like that. And then the same is true in the other group, but in the direction of over applying intensity, right? I'd say that the group that is like really like they're excited, they're motivated, they're willing to dedicate 5-6 days in the gym. They're doing their own research on what they should be doing, building their pro. I would say that 80% or more of those people actually tend to over apply intensity.
Well, and the overachievers too. Like I used to try, like if they were like 5-6 days a week, or they just live in the gym. Initially, as a younger trainer, I'd try to like kind of scale that back and be like, you only show up like 3 days a week. Like you don't really need to do all that much. But later on, realize you just need to keep them busy. And active recovery is a big part of that whole process. So to have them just understand that you have to taper off that intensity and really like go through the movements, but approach it with a more restorative type of energy. And so to keep them busy though was crucial, because they're so driven that they just need something to do every day.
I actually had clients like that who would sneak in workouts.
Yeah, they do it anyways.
I'm like, what are you doing? But you know what is probably most common for everybody is they do both. What I mean by that is they'll get these little spurts of like motivation, they just overdo it, and then long bouts of like underdoing it. It's very hard to find to get someone to understand the proper application, which is neither too much nor too little, and how to read those signals, how to read how their body's progressing, how they feel, and how to determine. And by the way, advanced experienced training or trainers or people find this balance to be challenging as well. But it's even harder for someone without experience. They tend to overdo it and then burn out or hurt themselves and then way underdo it type of deal. So